Hey, Link here. Thanks for joining me for episode 103, where I speak of Karla Zimonja. In this episode, we talk about the walking sim genre, the games that made her get into games, her favorite trends, her life outside of gaming, some lightning round questions, and more. Before we get started, don't forget there are links in the episode description that you can follow to learn more about Karla as well as the podcast. Also, don't forget to like and share the episode, and without further ado, enjoy episode 103. Hi, and welcome to the Red Tunic Podcast, a podcast where I look to rediscover what makes gaming fun and enjoyable by having positive conversations with those related to the industry. My name is Link, and today I'm joined by Karla Zimonja, known for her contributions to titles such as Bioshock 2, Minerva's Den, Gone Home, Tacoma, Life is Strange 2, and the upcoming Wanderstop. Hi, Karla. How are you doing today?
Hello, I am doing all right. How about you?
I am doing all right. It's going. I am good. It's Friday, which is the most important part for me, I think, at this point.
I strongly agree. It's a
um,
very important day.
Yes, exactly. It's the end of the week, which means, well, for me, it's the end of the week, which means I don't have to concern myself with any office work till at least Sunday night when I have to start panicking about, the whole thing of waking up to continue to make money so I can eat. Um,
Harvey Smith actually told me that that has a term for it, the Sunday Scaries, which did not know before he told me. I'm sure everyone knows that, but not me.
um, I had never heard that before.
Yeah.
I like it more than the the Office Space reference, the Mondays or like,
Mm,
what have you. Um, so yeah, I like the Sunday Scaries more. It sounds less like something you would hear from someone that is like at the doorstep of retirement as you walk into the office every
yeah.
Monday morning with some weird cheery tone too. That's like it's Brenda, it's 7 a.m. on Monday. We're way too early for whatever this is, right?
Why are you doing this to me, Brenda?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, 100%. It's like the only problem with the term as it yeah, with it as a term is that it's a little infantilizing. It's like, "Oh, you got the Sunday scaries? Oh, you're existentially terrified of having to work for the rest of your life? Oh, bummer." There's a little bit of childishness in there, you know what I mean? But it's effective.
I will take the childishness there as opposed to some other places.
Yeah, that's super fair.
Um, Now, Carla, also, before we go any further, I do want to say thank you for making the time to to be here to talk with me. I really appreciate that we were able to work this out and you being here. So thank you.
Well, no problem. It will be fun, I'm given to understand.
I've yet to have anyone say to my face that it was not any fun. So I'm glad that your understandings it will be fun. Um,
You don't have a webcam, though, so how could anyone say anything to your face?
that is very, very fair. And for anyone that does not know or has ever wondered why there is no like video component to any of the episodes on YouTube outside of me just putting up gameplay for things, it is because I literally and physically do not own a webcam. I have actually, just because I'm mentioning it, I feel compelled now. I have not had a webcam since like a proper webcam that did not exist on a laptop, and even then for laptops they were janky. But I have not had a webcam since I was like 21, 22. I
Mm,
am 36. I have avoided them this whole time.
wow. I mean,
Um,
respect.
Now, if you're curious of why or what changed, the answer is long-term dating and me no longer having the shackle of having to have a webcam after that.
Oh, I see. Right, it was no longer a thing that you had, like, personal impetus to keep. That makes sense.
Or a requirement, however you want to look at and phrase it.
Sure.
Um, Now, Carl, before we get started, before we go too much further, I'm wondering if you would mind sharing a little bit about yourself, kind of like the elevator pitch of who you are. So that way, if anyone was just like, well, who is this Carla person? the things that you feel are the most important for them just to quickly know and maybe kind of understand or what have you.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. All right. So I am kind of a weirdo long time game industry person. I It's very hard for me to like I haven't had like a real normal title for my job in many years. I just mostly these days well, all right. So I started out as an animator and worked on a bunch of games, as in that capacity. And then I ended up burning out, and I came back as a researcher on Bioshock 2, and then went on to get more into like design and narrative and other like more and a lot of graphic design and a lot of more high level stuff ever since then. So I've honestly been in the indie space for long enough where I just do a bunch of things. I do some leadership, I do some uh narrative design, I do some systems design, I do some graphic design, do some, you know, this, that, and the other thing. And it's hard to have a description that is succinct, unfortunately. But here we are.
So, thank you for that. And I'm gonna paraphrase. Actually, and I don't even think it needs necessarily to paraphrase. I think you kind of said it, that this, that, and the other thing or what have you.
Perfect.
Um, like
Yes.
the
Put
just
it on my
the
tombstone.
everything. But as someone else that in their role has for a long time went through they're just the this, that, and the everything
The
kind of person.
miscellaneous.
Yeah, I can understand the hesitation or like the headache of trying to put yourself in a box when effectively what instead of you being put in a box, you've just been put in a room with several boxes and told to figure it out, right? So I can empathetically relate to that feeling, and I hope that well, if you'd like to, I hope at some point you are able to find a box. But, you know, as someone that has found a box and is now confined themselves to like a 5-year project,
Ooh.
um, I don't know if I prefer the room of boxes or the box. So like I don't, I'm just saying I understand where you're going and hopefully you are happy at least in that setup.
It's generally fine. It only becomes awkward when you meet someone or at, GDC or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, what do you do over there?" And I'm like, tugging my collar like, Homer Simpson. It's very silly. I think I'm officially calling myself a co-creative director at this point, which is I don't know, it's true as anything else at Sonderlust, but anyway, yeah, who knows?
Exactly, who knows? But all the same though, thank you for sharing that. If anyone, and if anyone else wants to pick uh what they think you do out of all of that instead of just
Yes.
saying this, that, or the other, power to them, I suppose,
Yeah, give it a
Um
name. If y'all listeners are like, "This is what you should put on your business card," like, tell me, that would be terrific.
Um, Now, Carl, I do want to ask you this before we get really into it. And I apologize because this is kind of a question I thought of before we started talking, and I did not have the foresight to be like, hey, I'm going to throw this at you. So I'm blindsiding you with something that I hope is gentle enough that it's not considered a hardball. And if it is, by all means, you can call me out on it and I'll feel bad for being an idiot.
Alright.
But, uh, when you guys worked on Got Home or Gone
Mhm.
Home, not Got Home, Gone Home.
God
Um,
home. That's a good one.
at the time, it was in the early days of like walking sims, quote unquote. Like that as a
Yeah.
genre didn't really exist, right? I
Yeah.
think Dear Ether,
Dear
I always
Esther,
forget.
yeah, Dear Esther is definitely the other big notable one around then, I think.
It had just come out like no more than like 12 months prior.
Mm,
So what I'm wondering if you have any feelings or thoughts or what have you, and I apologize if this is a question you've been asked before,
it's fine.
but like being part of what is effectively the style being, risen up or created. And like now we have a bunch of them. I'm wondering if in retrospect you have like any kind of opinion on contributing to that.
I mean, it's cool to like be a pioneer sometimes. It's a satisfying feeling to you know, define a little bit of a genre. That's absolutely a cool thing. But I mean, really, we came to it by extremely practical means, and I mean, fundamentally, Gone Home is a Bioshock without combat, uh, and with regular everyday people instead of splicers, and arch capitalists. But that was essentially the like mechanically that's what it is. It's got audio diaries, it's got environmental storytelling, like that is got more or less linear traversal that where space and time are overlaid. um it's pretty much the thing. And the stuff that hit about it, I think, is like the accessibility of the characters, I think, and also honestly, I think that a lot of it was the attention to detail and like support that the art gave the game. So like it, it's honestly a little bit of a funny one because um it's pretty hard to make a whole bunch of really, uh really plausible personal items, and like there's so much work to do all that stuff. And some big companies can do it, but they never want to have a game just be a walking simulator because they have shareholders to appease and whatnot. And so when you decide, you're like, oh, I'll just make a walking simulator. There isn't that much in it. You just kind of walk in there and you look at stuff. And then you get in there and you're like, oh no, I have to, there's so much stuff I have to make and support and plan for and think out. And it's not as easy as it looks. So I honestly feel a little bit, I'm a little bit like, sorry, buddy, to people who've picked it up thinking that it's a cozy, chill process, because kind of isn't, but
So, thank you for speaking to that. And like I I've honestly never really considered the the fact that it's basically like, games like, you used BioShock 2, BioShock as an example because it has like
mhm.
the audio narrations and the everything. I'm gesturing broadly with this,
Yeah,
as I don't have a webcam. But but it never actually occurred to me that those kind of games in general are really just that without the combat, right? Like,
that's what Gone Home was. I can't speak to what other ones are, but like that was explicitly our model. We had worked on all the people on, well, almost all the people on the Gone Home team had worked on Bioshock 2, and then Minerva's Den, which was sort of the pilot program for Gone Home in a lot of ways. It was like it's a very Gone Home Bioshock Christmas, if you will, and excuse me, and like it has a lot of elements that we like got to kind of hone in making Minerva's Den, and then getting to Gone Home. It was like cool, we had already done our sort of pilot program, so a lot of stuff was understandable to us, which was very handy and good. You should do that with games if you can, but it's not very common that people will hand you a DLC on an existing project and let you just kind of pioneer a different kind of game.
yes, I imagine that is one of those things where you kind of sell it with very different words that mean the same thing, but make the people willing to give you the money sitting at the table um, hear what they want to hear and just get excited all the same, and then go, "Well, it came out nice," and like not offend them when it comes out, right?
This is none of these things is in my skill set. Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna make a joke about trying to, like, do your best to always kind of, take money out of the capitalist system, but
Yeah,
I
that's
quickly
good
fell
too.
apart on anything but just the bluntness of it.
I mean, you can say it, I'll say it. It's great. Yeah.
Yes,
Yay,
yeah,
indie
definitely.
games. Anyway,
Yes,
it's
yay,
slightly
indie game.
better. Yeah.
Um, sorry, now I don't know where to go with this.
I don't know. Let's see.
But no,
Wa
so but
walking simulators, environmental storytelling? I don't know, you name it.
But no, thank you for sharing that. That's, like I said, I didn't really say I was going to ask that one, so thank you for taking
That's
that one
fine.
in stride. Um, Now I am kind of curious because before we started recording, you had mentioned that you didn't really play a lot of games as a kid, and
Yeah,
that's, I've spoken to a handful of people now where that wasn't really that was also kind of their upbringing. They didn't really have the same, um, kind of thing where they were being constantly exposed to video games themselves personally, or at least in large numbers until much later in life. So
yeah.
I'm wondering, in your case or your scenario or what have you, um, like when is it or what is it that eventually did get you into games? Like, the game, more or less, is what I'm meaning. Like, was there a game that you saw and were like, "Oh, hey, this is something that I actually wanna try now?" Um, because like, I'll use my mother, for example. She had
Mm.
no interest in, like, games like Mario or what have you, but for whatever reason, she saw Bomberman and was like, "This is the thing I need to play." And that was her life for, a few months, and then
That's
she's
charming.
not touched a video game ever since, but that first Bomberman on the Nintendo, right? So, like, that's really what I'm asking. Was there a game that you saw and were like, "I need to play this. I need to see what this is about." And if so, what was it?
Let's see. So like when I was a child, I played like we had like DOS games. We had like Tetris and um there was like a box pushing puzzle game and stuff like that. And eventually when I was a teenager, like I got Wolfenstein 3D and would play that with my little brother and stuff like that. But that stuff was just all kind of like, yeah, it's a game. I mean, Tetris is one of those Tetris is one of those like forces of nature at this point. It's like the elemental concept of games. So like I should not shortchange it since it is what it is. Very strongly. Yeah, I'm not sure whether I think the first game that I bought with my own money was I think Grim Fandango. Um it it was right around that time I also bought Neverhood and Planescape Torment, and I will stand behind all these games except for Neverhood's Doug Tenenbaum turned out to be like a turfy
Oh,
horrible
no.
man. So one should not support him any longer, but there was some good stuff in there somehow despite this man who is not very good. Uh but um I did enjoy all of these and like the Planescape Torment obviously like kind of speaks for itself. It's just like the extremely wide-ranging, dialogue options and different responsive situations for who you have in your party when and how you handle situations and stuff like that. Just extremely crazy robust. And I definitely really enjoyed that. Um it's funny because I looked at it later. It'd been a while. And there was something I was looking at in there, and I discovered that like some of the people who I didn't always have in my party have some like extremely like sexist ass dialogue, and I never had them in my party because I was just like, I don't know, I don't need that. I'll just go around with Mort and Ignis, everything's fine. And that was like chill for me, but yeah, apparently the minute that just a whole lot of stuff in there. Speaking of aging well, but there's still a lot to love about it. And yeah, Grim Fandango is still extremely a favorite. I replayed it when it came out again with tank controls, not too, it was like a few years ago. Um, and of course had a good time with it. What a joy. I've played that game many times, with my siblings and by myself, and it's just like, man, the uniqueness of the world and characters, and like even though you look at it and you're like, okay, it's a noir with like Central American visuals and skeletons, but it's like usually you don't get that many different concepts blended together, cleverly and well, and it really, it's a favorite for me.
So,
I oh
hey,
sorry.
oh, no, sorry, please continue.
Oh, I got the thing that I used to do to show my love for whatever game I was currently excited about is I used to dig out wave files, like, little sound clips or lines or sound effects from the CDs that they came on, and I would use them for Windows alert noises and stuff. So I had there were various ones from there that I still have memorized. I did have updated my journal for God, what was it? I think it was every time I ever hit save in some program, I had like all this crazy like customized Windows stuff. Um and there were, yeah, various Grim Fandango lines. I still have there's a little noise that Glottis makes that I still have as an alert on my phone for when I get an email. Anyway.
So, that that makes me feel like I need to provide, or someone should provide some context. 'Cause I don't know if Windows still lets you do
Oh, it
that.
doesn't. It doesn't.
Um,
This was many years ago.
oh yeah, 100%. So
So
for anyone that's listening and curious, Windows used to be fun.
it
You used to
did.
actually you used to be able to download themes, not just backgrounds and like some colors. You used to be able to download full themes, icon packs,
Yeah.
all sorts of fun things. And one of those cool things was you could have startup, like all the sounds, like the
Yeah.
startup sound, the shutdown sound, the save sounds. You could
Error
actually do
sound. Um
have something
like,
scream at
yeah,
you
all
for it.
kinds of stuff. Yeah. Oh, that was
Um,
so satisfying though.
Um, it was if you were the one doing it to someone else.
Well,
But yeah,
some people did this. Some people used this urge to make worms sound sets. It's basically the same concept. Um, Same idea. Wacky sound clips. It's just fun.
so yeah, so for anyone that's wondering what it is Carla was saying she was doing, she was enjoying Windows when Windows was fun. It is, I don't, personally for me, I remember it not being fun anymore with X. I was one
Mm,
of the few people that used Windows ME and had no issue with it. For
mm,
reasons I don't know. But Windows ME had themes that you could download that did all of that fun stuff with music and audio stuff. So like, yeah, I miss those days when you could actually have fun and it wasn't like you fighting just to get your stupid little tabs in the order you want or whatever,
or
form of personalization.
well, like
Um,
turning off the random ads that they show you now, and whatnot. Like when that wasn't the whole thing.
yes, yeah, the whole, as we briefly touched on about 5 minutes ago, yeah, the whole, planescape of capitalism and that nonsense. Um,
Yeah.
luckily for me, I'm still on Windows 10. I don't know for how much
Oh yeah,
longer
me
I can.
too. I'm sticking with it as long as I can.
Oh yeah, like I don't want ads. I don't need ads
No,
popping up at me,
I really
yelling
don't.
at me to buy something stupid just because I opened my task window or what
Man,
have you.
yeah, man, if I gotta go to Linux again, it's been a long time since I've been in Linux full time, but if I gotta emulate Unity and stuff, I will. Like I will I'm not gonna do this whole Windows 11 thing. I will be a bullheaded weirdo about it.
Yes, I wholeheartedly am on that, like, same edge of, like, do I really have to? Like, is this really what I
Yeah.
need to do?
right?
Um, luckily, luckily, SteamOS seems competent and
Mm,
capable for the most at playing games and stuff. I don't know about software, but like
yeah.
at least we have that going for us. Because like
Yeah, for sure.
before that, Linux didn't really play games. Well, it did, but
Yeah.
it definitely didn't. I don't want to
I gotta
be
do
a
the emulators.
reductionist, but
Yeah. I mean, wine was really heavy back in the day. Like, it was just really, like, took up a lot of your resources and made things difficult. Maybe it's better now. Who knows? I haven't looked into it in some time. But like, yeah, for sure. It's yeah, unfortunately I have to like, do work on it, for my actual day job and
yes,
yeah, we'll see what
unfortunately, it is
happens.
what it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It is what it is. Unfortunately. Um,
Yeah.
now Now you just briefly spoke to what effectively I'm assuming or presuming were your like favorite games. Um,
Yeah.
I'm wondering because like, we've come a long way since Black Isle Studios, since Torment, Planescape, sorry, I always mix
Mm-mm.
up the proper name, as well as Grim Fandango. I'm wondering um if there were more recent titles that were maybe in the same vein as those, because those were uh I don't want to say those specific games. In Grim Fandango's case, I think it was, but like they were from an era of actual genre defying stuff that was coming off all the time and set the
Yeah.
foundation for what we see a lot of today from mostly indie stuff or smaller, double A or
Hmm.
single A or however you want to phrase that nonsense. I don't understand it, hence nonsense.
I don't
But
know.
I'm wondering if you have if there's like more modern versions of those games that are, that you're also a fan of. I hope that makes sense what I'm asking.
Yeah, it does. I mean, adventure games are like they're notoriously hard to do, and they, to make actually feel satisfying and not arbitrary. Like, and even Grim Fandango even slips up, um, at a few points, and you're like, "What am I supposed to be doing? Excuse me, I've played this game 10 times, and I can't remember what this part is supposed to be, and nothing is giving me a clue." And that is sort of the curse of adventure games, and like same with like Sam and Max Hit the Road, and which I also enjoy very much, Day of the Tentacle, that kind of thing. um but yeah, those are all those ones are, I don't know, they're a little, I don't want to say they're sui generis because I just named like four things. But like but it was kind of a particular time. I haven't really encountered a lot of modern adventure games that I'm super excited about for various reasons. I am also very picky. I get real I'm picky about writing and among other things. So but like thankfully Planescape, I mean that has, much clearer modern equivalents, like Disco Elysium is probably it's a pretty clear connective, evolution. I don't want to say evolution. Uh, Evolution in the sense of like cladistics, like they're related concepts. Um, I think that's obviously a really good reference point. Um, and let's see. Yeah, yeah, that kind of thing. I guess also, I could say that adventure games, I mean, there's so much in them. I can't truly like one to one point out a modern one that I think is like as successful and is modern, but like there's a lot of elements that are brought forward in like the sort of, not forensic, but it's kind of forensic. Um the exploratory aspects and like finding finding things in an environment, like you could make a case for a lot of games fitting into that. um Even, I mean, if you wanted to be really a total nut, you could say that like Oberdin was related to that in some ways. um that kind of thing.
So a quick follow up to that one. It sounds like you would have played or at least had exposure to a fair amount of um, point and click, like those kind of adventure games.
Yeah.
I don't know how heavy-handed LucasArts with it was, because I think you mentioned, I think the titles you mentioned were mostly LucasArts. I could
They
be wrong.
certainly were, yeah.
Um, I'm wondering how you feel about us moving away from the nonsense that was giving you one item that was usable in 3 or 4 different instances that could end your game. But, like, I'll use King's Quest V for the
Ah,
example.
yes.
Like, you could get, like, 6 hours into this game and be like, "Oh, hey, that thing you got in the first 30 minutes, guess what? You weren't supposed to use it like that."
Mhm.
Like, I'm wondering I'm wondering, how you feel that we have moved away from that. I imagine there are some people that are like, "Well, these young kids these days, they don't have to learn or know what it's like to, spend 6 hours of your life and then get kicked in the teeth." Those people I think are probably crazy, but
Mm.
I'm sorry if you're one of those
They're
people and I just
they're
said that.
they're Bloodborne players. I have no use for that paradigm. That is not interesting to me. Just like screwing with the player for no good reason, like arbitrarily, just being like, "Oh lol, you thought you were playing a game, but you need to stop now because of something totally arbitrary." That is not my thing. I will not get behind that. Um yeah, that's also not a thing that I did as a kid, so I don't have the Stockholm syndrome love for having to batter my way through a puzzle 300 times.
Yes, yes. I'm glad that, that I didn't say all that, and then you have you go, actually, I'm in that camp. You're like, oops.
Fine.
Um, yeah, exactly. Okay, fine.
Don't worry
But
about it.
yeah, I grew up with Sierra games, and
Yeah.
that was something they seemed to enjoy doing for reasons um, I don't understand as an adult.
Yeah.
I played them with my dad, and when no one was looking, I was playing them alone. In that case, it would have been Leaders Through Larry. 8-year-old should not have been playing through
Oh, I
Larry.
remember that.
Um, but like a lot of those, I would do that and then be like, "Well, what? I have to restart," and like have no understanding. And like my parents are
Right.
divorced. I'd call my dad, mention it. He'd be like, "Oh yeah, you used it wrong. You're supposed to use it this way." Like, so I have to restart. He's like, "Well, yes. Have fun." Like,
Damn,
what?
Dad.
Like, why is it like this? Why are games um why do they do this? And
I
I just go
mean,
back to playing Mario and not worrying about things.
yeah, the whole thing about games is that you have to, I don't know, you kind of have to enter that space and have the trust that you can learn how the game works when you start playing the game, because that is honestly, like, in a lot of ways it's the point of games. The point of games is to teach you how to play them, um and allow you to, you know have whatever mastery is available or continue to use those skills. um and yeah, I don't know, interfering with that seems counterproductive to me, but I'm not a game designer in the 80s. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. You weren't a game designer in the 80s, so like trying to pull thread from this is probably I was not a game designer in the 80s either. I was
Oh.
I didn't exist in the 80s, or
Oh,
at least
weird
till the late
choice.
till at least the late 80s at least. So, for me, yes, I felt it was a betrayal to the learning experience. If like Mario, you went, "Oh, I should jump on this thing ahead of me." With like Sierra games, you went, "Oh, I shouldn't have used this object 4 hours ago to get past that puzzle." That's on me. I
Yeah,
made a
that's
mistake.
that's just kind of a dick move.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I don't think anyone in retrospect or hindsight will disagree that that's just, what would be referred to later as a dick move, or probably even in the moment from anyone that played it and didn't know, right?
Yeah, it's a little rough.
Um, just a little.
We try not
Um,
to alienate our players like that these days, which, yeah, usually, yeah. I mean,
usually, yeah,
sometimes.
usually.
If that's,
Um,
the game, if that's what you're doing, then, if that's your whole reason for making a game, then bless, but
uh,
yeah.
I would be very confused for some games that intentionally go out of their way to do it, but, you know, there definitely are some that have, you know, went out of their way to do it for reasons unknown to a lot of people, but, you know, that's neither here nor there, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know, you're allowed to make a game that's alienating, like, that's totally fine. It's just, it's a little rough when it's, like, the standard.
yes, exactly. Um, so, you know, Carla, as you mentioned, you've been in the industry for a good while. You've been
Mhm,
working on stuff for a decent amount of time. You know, you were playing games on DOS. Um,
mhm.
so like you've seen things. You've been around for long enough. I'm wondering
I'm
sorry.
I'm I'm, like, holding a cigarette and a martini in the same hand and, like, and looking at you all like, "Seen some shit." Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Um, but
Perfect.
like I'm I'm wondering as of like in this generation, this era of games or what have you, I'm wondering if there's like a thing that you've seen or like a genre that's coming up or like a trend that's been coming along that you've seen you're like this is what I'm looking forward to. This is the future. Like
Mm.
broad strokes for me, it's indie games just in general. I
I
love
mean, yeah.
seeing what they throw at the wall cuz like they typically don't have corporate overlords trying to make their game at a shareholder meeting. They're just, you know, 5 g you know, 5 people making something and just going, "Let's see if this sticks," hitting the wall with it and going, "It does, let's just go with it," right? So, like,
Hooray.
I'm wondering if you know, if you have something like that, like a recent-ish trend that you're like, "I'm looking forward to this blowing up," or what have you.
Believe me, I am so with you on the whole indie games thing. I am very against, big corporate mediated entertainment of every sort. I'm not a fan. Uh, so, like, yeah, I'm with you. That definitely need those indie games. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really a trend forecaster. I think like I feel like let's see. What's my favorite like recent I I mean these are all going to be indie games, but one of my favorite games that I've or series is now that I've played recently has just been the Golden Idol series. Like what a and you can see, when I'm all kind of like, wow, I miss adventure games. Like this is clearly the kind of game that gets the closest to that of late is the sort of forensic it's kind of an Oberdin like find the in a way like find what happened and figure out the puzzles therein and ascertain why all these people died horrible deaths. It's a pretty good series. They just put out a new one, Rise of the Golden Idol, which has made some interactive updates, which is very interesting. It kind of changes the balance of the game, and I'm not quite sure whether I am for it or against it yet, but it did make a big change. That stuff is great. Let's see, what else am I excited about? I mean, God, I don't know. The other game that I've been excited about recently was I finally played Anthology of the Killer, which was just like a joy from start to finish. Um, I just played the whole thing in a couple of sittings, and just like really like I don't know if you've encountered this, um, but it's like a comedic 2D sprites on a 3D simple like Wolfenstein or Doom kind of environment mostly, and but it's very like hand drawn aesthetically and uh just like deeply weird, and the world that they all take place in is really um amusing and like well thought out and wacky. It's good stuff. I'm a fan of this. But so I hope that it is a trend in the future that people get a wild hair and make a whole bunch of weird stuff that is a great time. But it turns out that people tend to need money for that, and the whole funding situation for indies is also bad right now. But hey, here's hoping.
So, I hadn't actually heard of Anthology of the Killer. I'm not gonna
Check it
lie.
out.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. The moment you were talking about it, I was, pulling it up just to look at pictures
Yeah,
to have a visual idea. And
yeah.
like, um,
It's cheap
yeah,
as dirt on itch. They really, it's very cheap and should be more expensive, but it's probably the same price on Steam. I actually don't know, but
yeah, I don't, yeah, I've never actually really, I usually don't look at itch. It's actually cheaper on itch,
oh,
which
God
is
bless.
wild.
Get it.
Um, Yeah,
Good for
definitely.
them.
For anyone that's interested or curious about itch, um, indie game hosting, more or less, think of it as the large scale indie sphere of Steam. But also they do a cool thing where they do developer days, or I don't know the right phrase, but they don't take a cut. They give all the money straight to developers. So if
Yeah.
you're ever really wanting to support the dev, um, you can either wait to one of those days, but also I think sometimes itch games allow you to pay more, and the overage goes straight to the dev as well.
hmm
Um,
Well, additionally, importantly, by default, they take much less of a cut than Steam. Like Steam takes 30% offset like of everything, and I'm pretty sure Itches is much lower than that, and I cannot remember what the number is, but it is much lower.
Also a very important thing to keep in mind. So thank you for that. But
Yeah.
as well as anyone that's ever wants to explore indie games, Itch is a fantastic place to get outside of Steam. Um, or more so, it's just if you want to be able to support the devs a little more direct, right? So, but yeah, I made a note of that game. It looks, I should, seems the wrong word. It looks interesting.
Yeah.
It's cheap enough to throw, to throw something at it and see what it is. So yeah, thank you for that recommendation.
Anytime.
I'm not huge into these games just because
That's fine.
as I got older, I just that's just my scope narrowed elsewhere. My girlfriend loves these kind of games
Yeah.
typically. So
Well,
like,
pass it along.
yeah, definitely. I think she's a good candidate as well to take a look. So thank you for the recommendation for that.
Anytime. Also, some art in there, apart from the Catamites who did most of the work on there. A friend of mine, Alex Deegan, did some posters for every segment because it's an anthology. It's basically like I forget how many, six or something, different like smaller uh, games collected together, and he did posters for each one, and they are very good. He's a good guy. He did some. He also did some posters in Gone Home for us because he's a good, cool comics artist. Just shouting people
Awesome.
out randomly.
No, 100%. I was going to say awesome. I'm never going to be the person that goes out of my way to like shut someone down when they're trying to, raise someone else up. I'll say this is more just cuz I don't really ever want to accidentally step on toes. I avoid personally name dropping just cuz I don't understand the nature of it and like
That's
where it
fair.
may or may not be pretentious or what have you, but I'm never going to stop anyone else because I trust they have a better grasp of what they're doing, right? Like they know it themselves more. That's my take. I'm unsure of how to do it safely. I trust everyone else doesn't. So yeah, I'm never gonna be like, no, please don't share this artist. No, by all means, you wanna prop someone else up. By all means, I'm here for it 100%. I'm always happy to like see someone trying to bring the tide in. You know what I mean?
Hooray.
Um, but no, yeah, thank you again for that recommendation. I'm gonna take a look of that. Take a look at that one. You mentioned the Case of the Golden Idol.
Yeah.
I that one I remember seeing the because it was just announced or just came out of just more recently the newer one,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
seems interesting. I don't want to. I don't. I want to be careful with weird because I use weird in not a negative way. It looks
Yeah, I do too. It's fine.
so yeah, it looks weird. It looks like
Oh,
a
it's deeply
really
weird.
an interestingly weird game that's like, okay, what am I looking at here? What's happening? Like one of inside the trailer or what have you, it's like you're trying to figure out why a bunch of weird birds killed someone and also the birds' names. And
Yeah,
like like that's so weird. Like
it's pretty
it's
weird.
the kind of thing it's like I'm gonna I'm gonna have a few drinks and then try and play it because it's probably just gonna make it all the more wild, you know?
That will make it harder. Like, you
Oh,
definitely have to track some things. Although the new one, Rise of the Golden Idol, is, it's it's a little bit they made it a little easier to get through it, in general. They got their art style, their, like, deeply, like, grotesque character art, I'm just so happy about. It is really hard for me to explain why, but I just enjoy their unpleasant, humans, it's just so fun. But, like, yeah, you have to do a lot of, like, basically like cross-referencing things, just being like, if this person was here at this time and they had this, then that means that this person must have been doing this. It's that kind of like, careful tracking of uh who has done what, and is where and that kind of thing. And I find that very satisfying, but it is also absolutely something I have to do in like 2-hour stints rather than just be like, I will sit down and play the whole game. My brain will just melt. But I find it a good time.
So, thank you for speaking to that more. And I thank you especially because as someone that has struggled with these kind of games,
Oh yeah,
being told,
fair.
"No, no, you should definitely sit down and be in sound focused mind for it." Because like I don't know if you're familiar with like the Phoenix, the Ace Attorney series.
Oh yeah.
Um, for me, the issue was always, and this was in other games as well, but this is where I kind of came to the head where I would sit there more or less yelling at the DS or like or the Game Boy, being like, "No, I know how this happened. I need like I just do the thing. Just say the
Let
thing
me
that
convey
I."
it.
Yes, exactly. So like
Yeah,
knowing that the new one makes that a little easier
it
and like you
does.
get the words and stuff, that is very exciting to me because it means there's less chance I'm going to be aggressively yelling, "Just let me tell you the thing,"
It's
right?
super fair. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, sometimes the method of uh yeah, conveying what you have figured out is not as clean as it could be. I feel like they don't, yeah, yeah. No, it's a great point. Yeah, you might
Um,
like it. You might be like, "Please, no." It's hard for me to say. Have you played Tactical Breach Wizards?
I have not played it. I'm wanting to play it though because
Yeah.
it looks very interesting, but also like very nonsense in a good way, you
Yes,
know?
100%. Yeah. It's
I'm oops, sorry.
mm. No, no.
I was gonna say I'm not unfamiliar with the style of game, which
Mhm.
is what makes me be like, "This could be fun." This
Yeah.
could be really cool. So, yeah, I'm interested in it. I'm looking forward to, uh, finding time and chance and, lining up all of the stars. I think you know what I'm trying to say with that.
Means
But
bonus
basically, yes.
opportunity.
Yes, yeah, but yes, it looks interesting is the short and long of it.
Yeah. You may have a good time with it. The Tom Francis is a pal, and he really worked on this for a long time, like trying to get the systems to, sing basically. The satisfying thing about it is it's got that kind of like, XCOM-y tactical movement, but you can but the powers of the individual units are weird and affect a lot of things. So it's like basically the emergence of the choices you makes. Like the space is big. You know what I mean? You can end up with very different results from even just the same units. And there is that emphasis on throwing people out windows, which is also fun.
Yes, any any game that lets you kick someone out a window is always up there on my list of things to check out. Just because how many games let you actually just, someone out a damn window? Like,
Not that many, not that freaking many.
um,
It's a crying shame.
but yeah, but thank you for bringing that one up as well because I made a note of that one so I at least have a better memory for it. And like the emergence that you mentioned of like all of this, the spells or what have you and how they
Mhm.
interact. That's sounds like wonderful chaos to me as
Yeah, hell
someone
yeah.
that tried playing Baldur's Gate in a
Oh,
group,
yeah.
um,
Oh my
and having
god.
someone walk into a cave and just go, I have a chain lightning scroll, I'm gonna use it. And being smart enough to immediately go, I'm going to step out of this cave, as they used it and killed the entire party.
Yeah.
As someone that, has played those kind of games like Divinity Original Sin, what have you, I'm all for that kind of chaos because it's always so damn funny. Like just watching the nonsense unfold is always so much fun.
Yeah. And then in Tactical Breach Wizards, you can rewind. So if you're like, oh no, that turned out terribly, you can just rewind and try it again to make it turn out different terrible, which is satisfying. It's just like um it's an option that you just don't get that much. Like it's just very, I don't know, for some reason I'm like, wow, why did nobody think of this? Like doing all these complex tactical moves. Yeah, of course you should be able to rewind them and try it, rather than having to restart at the beginning. Like of course that's a quality of life improvement. But yeah, I just don't see it that much.
So, you saying that, all that makes me realize is, all they've basically done is when we know you're going to save scum, just press
Yeah,
this button
yeah.
instead. And
We'll just
like,
support it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's like
Yeah, hell
instead of
yeah.
making you press reload and wait 30 seconds or however long, press this button.
Exactly.
Just screw it, And like, yeah, that is a beautiful quality of life. However, uh I worry I worry how it would work in games like XCOM where you could,
Oh yeah.
where the incentive to
That's about
abuse it,
permadeath, yeah.
yeah, where the incentive to abuse it is a little different than going, "Oh wow, that exploded the entire room. Let's try that again," right?
Yeah.
Context is key in this one.
Right. Well, yeah, XCOM is so strongly about like, don't get attached to your guys. They are going to die. And like that's such a baseline. And yeah,
Yeah.
it would be pretty hard to take that away and have it be the same game.
Yeah. As someone that had played a lot of XCOM, the the getting to the high was incredibly fun, but also the struggle as the drain was starting to be circled was also a lot of fun. Because sometimes you could just egg it by, right?
Oh
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
sometimes you couldn't, but like holding on was always a, a chaotic, panicked mess of can I make this work? And then like you're at death's doorstep, and you go, nope, I can't, and everything goes to hell. But like it's always a fun ride
You
watching.
did what you could.
Yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. It was always so fun watching your entire like top tier squad get wiped and be like, well, the only person I have left has gone insane. Um, okay,
All
we're
right.
done.
Well, here we are.
Yeah, exactly. Send out some fresh recruits. I'm sure this will be fine at endgame content. It'll be good. It never was, but that was part of the
No.
experience, right?
Indeed.
But no, as I said, thank you for recommending those titles as well, but also like the more specific Tactical Breach Wizards because I wrote that down that to remember because like I've seen it and it looks exciting and yeah, I'm gonna have to commit it more to memory.
That's
Um,
I
now,
believe in you.
uh, thank you. It's nice that someone believes in me.
Damn.
Um, that's way darker than it should be, but I'm
No,
going with
it's
it.
fine. Let's go in that direction. That's all right.
To be very clear, I have a very caring and supportive net family, what have you. It's just
Good.
fun to talk
Good.
about that,
Yeah,
at
I
least
know.
someone believes in me. Um,
Wipe a tear away and
yeah,
drop it into
exactly.
the microphone.
Um,
Perfect.
uh, but Carol, I do want to bug you with this one because
Okay.
I want to hit you with some chaos, basically,
All right.
or
Hit me with some
maybe
chaos.
chaos. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I don't control this, but I do want to bug you with some lightning round stuff, and these
Okay.
are nonsensical, lighthearted, random. Um, by all means, feel free to answer them however you like. There's no judgment, but also be very careful because if you start thinking about them too much, um, you might fall into a weird trap. And I say that from experience because some of these are just yeah, they're weird. Um,
I assure you I will overthink it.
that's also perfectly fine. So what video game character would you happily sit and watch have a 30-minute Dragon Ball style power up?
Oh. Um, hmm. Oh, the funniest answer is Harry from Disco Elysium. Uh, probably. Um, let's see. Do I have a more funny answer? Um, nah, not offhand. Let's just say that. That's funny.
Works for me.
Funny
Um,
enough.
Now, this one, I apologize if this creates some form of existential crisis, but at the same time, I'm not really sorry because it's always fun to do that. Um, Insight into who I am as a person.
Good.
But which video game character do you think is most capable of being cloned and knowing when they wake up they might not be the original?
Mm. Um, hmm. A good question. I'm like scrolling through my game library in hopes to get some inspiration here. That's an interesting one. I mean, okay, so uh oh. I mean, a pretty good answer, a pretty good real answer for that is of course Pip-Boy. Um a I don't think I have I don't know if I have a silly answer for that. Or I guess like the Citizen Sleeper protagonist. Also, extremely plausible. They'd probably do fine in those situations, both of them, for different reasons. Yeah.
You know, fair enough.
Sorry for being serious. I don't know.
Oh no, that's the fair enough is because I usually I want to be careful to not step into the question because I just know that it could spiral
I mean, you
into
can.
a full
We'll talk about it. It's fine.
uh, sure, yes, why not? When I 100% understand what you would mean with like anything that would be robotic related, because they're probably most ready or capable of knowing that
Yeah.
they are just a memory, a piece of code that could be copied and
Yeah,
what have
kind of.
you. Um, so whether or not they have the full self-awareness to be upset that they aren't the one that continues on or the one that's the original, right? Um, but I think at some point when it comes to cloning, does it really matter who's original? To someone it might, but like
Yeah.
if you think you're original, that's what matters, right? That's the important part.
Yeah, continuity of consciousness is the important part. So, if you have the illusion of that, then I guess there's no reason to worry, really. It's like the Star Trek transporters. It's like if you just die when you go in there and a new person is created, but there's continuity of consciousness regardless, it's like, oh, you don't know. You don't know any better.
And in all honesty, the the grim reality from a series like Star Trek that is incredibly progressive, all things considered, right?
Yeah,
Like the
largely,
utopian
yeah.
vision and the social politics and everything that it supports and puts forward as important. Um, the knowledge that, oh no, these are suicide booths that then
Mhm.
digitally recreate someone
Mhm.
elsewhere. Like that's
It's
a
funny.
wild heavy yeah, exactly. It's like that's a wild and heavy take, all
It's
things
like it's not
considered.
uncommon. I mean, there's a lot of takes on Star Trek in general because it's been around for so long that, everybody's dug out their weird ideas about it. But like, yeah, I mean, that's a like transporters, like what do? You take apart the thing at the starting location. You don't send those Do you send those individual molecules? What does that mean? Like, are you just kind of throwing those through the air, or are you breaking them up into informational content and like, throwing them to a quantum entangled new location or something? And it's like, well, did that process retain the continuity of the consciousness? And the answer is I don't know. It's fake.
So, well, fun fact, Star Trek has already actually handled this.
Has it?
And the answer is, if I remember correctly, that the transporters actually store a backup, and at that
They do,
moment,
yeah. They have a buffer.
transport that person. And they've had instances where they have created clones, but the clone doesn't remember the last day
Mm,
because that's not the memory location.
right.
Um,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
so yeah,
it's
it's
stored in the buffer, quote unquote,
yeah.
is the thing. Totally.
Yeah, the buffer, quote unquote.
That's
How
what they
old is this
said. I don't
buffer?
know.
Who's pulling that floppy disk out and going, well, I now have a copy, and then whatever.
Let's just
Um,
make a new one. I mean, I don't know. What else are we doing with this? Let's just
Um,
materialize them. And they also use that for like, various wacky holodeck things where it's like, well, why shouldn't I make a new body and materialize it with the transporter because it's just information, right? And yeah, it's all very it's a little hand wavy.
yes, I was about to say, I don't think we should be doubling down on trying to fully flesh out the hand waviness of sci-fi tech that just is there to make a principled point of
I
it
wouldn't dream
happens,
of it.
right? I'm gonna hit you with two more because I
All
have
right.
another one that I want like I have the last one was new, this one's newer as well.
All right.
Um, which video game character do you feel is dumb enough to fall for a Nigerian prince email?
Hmm. Um, hmm. Let's see. Really, I guess there's a lot of. Well, are there a lot of dumb protagonists in general, or just like side characters? Um, I feel like there's probably. Hmm. No, I don't know. This one's a little rough. Dumb. A little bit of a. Hmm. I'm not coming up with a good one. I think there's probably like. Hmm.
If you don't have an answer, by all means, do not feel pressured to try and find
I
one.
don't.
No
I don't know
answer
if I
is
have a
an
good
answer.
one. Yeah, I don't know if I have a good one. It's a good concept. I don't know if I have one that's jumping out at me, unfortunately.
Perfectly fair, and I'm gonna hit you with one more that's I've had for a while. Hopefully, it fares a little easier.
Okay.
Um, this one, okay. So, which video game character do you feel is most likely to text a picture of their feet at 2 a.m. and ask, "Do these look the same size to you?"
Wow. That's another Disco Elysium one for sure. Or let's see. Who's just a deeply weird who's a strange person? Uh I could I feel like there's multiple ghosts and speed dating for ghosts that could be tied to. Um I I feel like there's a character Boro in Wanderstop who might do that. Just out of deep strangeness. Um that would be very funny. I don't know. What's your answer for this one?
My answer, oh, I'm basic. So I would probably default to someone that is probably a little gross and knows the societal norms say they shouldn't do that. So like
Mm.
Wario or like Waluigi, someone
Oh,
like
sure.
that is who I would probably lean into.
Oh, that makes
Um,
sense.
just because I feel for me the answer would be someone that knows it's not appropriate, but also is just at the cusp of being inappropriate. Like it's just on that
Mm.
line because it's an innocent question, quote unquote, right?
Right, but would Wario and Waluigi would they care? Like it seems like it's a thing that they would not be worried about if it happened.
So
But maybe I'm wrong. I'm gonna say like I feel like Greg from Night in the Woods or something would do that just like when he was high or something. I feel like that would make a lot of sense.
that yes, that is also very fair. That is very much in line with the kind of thing that your friends would say, "Well, hi," right? Looking at
Yeah,
their
yeah,
hands,
yeah.
like my hands look too big.
Right.
Um,
So
you know,
maybe if Waluigi was really high, he also would do that. Let's all
I'm
imagine that right now.
oh, there's probably fan art of it. I wouldn't be
There
shocked.
is.
Um, but thank you because I never actually thought about it from that angle, which is weird because I was always the sober friend. I was
Mm,
always the one that was in the room when everyone was high and saying the most nonsensical, asinine things. So like,
to
I
amuse
don't know
everyone.
why. I don't know why it wasn't until you just, mentioned that I'm like, yeah, this is totally something that someone would say, well, stoned out of their gourd at like 2 a.m. or whatever. Um, sorry, I'm just now
Perfect.
I'm just now thinking back on the fact that, I'm like 30. It's been like 15 years since I've been the sober person sitting in the
Mm.
room with
Hey,
everyone
good for you.
going, y'all are stoned as hell. What's going on here? Um,
It's kinda lonely to be the one sober person in the room full of high people.
I'll say this because, for me it was a lot of fun. It was
Mm,
just wild because it would be like you would see people just saying and doing the dumbest things. In an example here, um, once I rolled up to a friend's and like they had already started the evening, and I was like, cool. Um, and it's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, we're gonna go to McDonald's. It's down the road. They were too stoned to realize I had a car, so they
mm,
just started walking in a blizzard down the road.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, okay is the right word. And then we convince them, we make it to McDonald's, sitting in the car, what have you. And the one person orders $80 worth of French fries, McChickens, junior McChickens,
Mm,
um, single cheeseburgers, double cheeseburgers. He basically had a mountain of these things. And the McDonald's person thought they were ordering for everyone, and then they pulled out their wallet, threw all the money down, walked out with like 3 bags, and then like a dragon on top of a gold hoard or whatever, went home and basically just stacked them up and then fell asleep in them.
perfect.
It was perfect because you know, I don't know how many people you've ever seen fall asleep in a mountain of cheeseburgers, but I've witnessed someone falling asleep in a mountain of literal cheeseburgers.
What a beautiful moment you got to witness.
Yes, it was a beautiful moment, and I also got my own Big Mac out of it too, so yeah, it was all good.
Beautiful. That's great. It's
Um,
the best outcome you can have there.
it really was. Now,
Cheeseburger
Karla.
bed? Witnessing cheeseburger bed? You did it.
Yes. Yeah, I got to see them do it, and then, I heard the next day they were very confused why they woke up in a pile of cheeseburgers, but that was them.
Whole
That was
cheeseburgers.
their life. Um, but no, thank you, Karla, for the lightning round, for, going into that. I know that it's a little awkward, so thank you.
No problem.
Now I only have a few more quick ones for you before I, let you go, before I stop taking up your evening. But the main one that I always like to ask, because I feel this is important to ask, uh, because you're a developer, but first and foremost, you're a human being, you're a person, you do your own things, right?
I
So
love that you
I'm
put it in
one.
that order. No, I'm teasing. Yeah.
You're very welcome, right? Shows my priorities in life.
Oh, yeah, interesting. Wow, okay.
Um,
So that's how you think about it. No, yes, indeed.
Man, that would be a real dark twist, right? This
Yeah, it
whole
really
time,
would.
it's really just me going, "No, they're developers, but they're humans second." Um, but but because I like to ask this because,
Welcome to
it's
the
a
mm,
sorry?
I said, "Welcome to the internet."
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah.
yes, exactly. But like
I'm
I said,
sorry.
because,
You were saying.
one of the main things I like to talk, highlight is that, talking to developers as people, talk about, who they are, the things that inspire them, what have you, what have you. But like obviously you can't have that without the other side of the coin, which is outside of games, what do you do to relax? What do you do what do you enjoy doing? Like who are you outside of games? Feel free to speak to that however it is you would like to.
Okay. So I read a lot, although I read less now because I have demanding job and whatnot, but you still try. I used to read a whole lot of sci-fi, and uh I have hilariously just started in on the Master and Commander series, which is actually a lot of fun, and it is very funny to see how excited my dad is that I am reading this. He is just like overjoyed. He's like, "Yes, read the dad books." It's very funny. But the last book that I read that is a new book that I was really excited about was Saint of Bright Doors, which is quite good. It's sort of urban fantasy-ish, but I'm usually not a fantasy person, but it's, you know, certain modern day stuff can make it work for me, and this is a lot. Yeah, it was a very interesting one. I really liked it. The other thing that I do is I like to play tabletop games. There's only two things that I do. I read and I play tabletop games. That's it. Um, and I guess listen to podcasts with tabletop games. But like I have a weekly D&D game with my friends that we've been doing for probably like 7 years at this point or something online. And I really want to find a local tabletop group, and I want to get into more Blades in the Dark or something of that nature, which would be very cool. I need to do this. I need to find some local people who want to play, because it's really nice to look at people's faces when you are playing tabletop games. Cool tabletop podcasts include Planet Arcana, which is one of my favorites, and Oddity Roadshow, which is well, let's see, that one is Monster of the Week. Planet Arcana is technically D&D, but it's very like custom. Um and I enjoy both of them. They're both very weird. That's some
So,
words. Is there anything else that Would
thank
you
you
like more?
for if you would like to say more, 100% sure. I'm not going to like, it's not like the Game Awards. I'm not going to get out the flashing thing. Please wrap it up or what have you.
Wrap it up. Shush.
Um, but no, thank you to speak for speaking to that. I am curious as well because you mentioned Saint of Bright Doors, which
Mhm.
that's really interesting because I I don't think there's a whole lot of urban fantasy or like I'm presuming when you say urban, you're
You don't
meaning
think so?
like modern, quote unquote,
Yeah.
right? I'm not too familiar with a lot of it, to be honest, but also I don't read a lot.
Well,
So like
China Miaville is one of the sort of reference points, I suppose. There's way more. I'm really not as much of a fantasy guy, so I don't know that much about it. But anyway, you're saying.
I just thank you for mentioning that because that's an interesting like I always like the idea of modern fantasy. Um
Yeah.
or like even futuristic fantasy when it comes to sci-fi that is like magic existing in like weird future, like spaceships era kind of things because it's
Sure.
always, like for whatever reason, it's been ingrained in my head. And I think a lot of people that magic only really exists in like these old timely kind of
Right.
settings. Even if it's modern, they go off to a castle or what have you, or it's like
Right.
always set on location in old places. It's like why can't it just be like, Jim didn't
In
fill
your
the
house.
coffee yeah,
Yeah.
or like Jim didn't
Yeah.
fill the coffee pot up at the office and someone like, throws a fireball at him or something
Yeah,
less
exactly.
aggressive.
Yeah.
Um
Whatever. Or like you used your fireball to heat up the coffee, whatever, right?
yeah,
Um
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that stuff
Uh,
is more the sort of practicality of it. I've never like I've never really been a standard fantasy kind of person. Like it just doesn't really appeal to me that much. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't really get the whole like faux medieval kind of tropes.
like I'm not against it. It's just one of those things where it's like I'm always happy to know modern fantasy does get to exist because like
Yeah,
it's
it's out there.
interesting. It's cool. Um, Now I am also curious, just because you mentioned, the tabletops in like 7 years. Congratulations to being a part of cats that can actually be herded. Um,
Hooray.
that is a horrifyingly difficult thing to actually exist in such a time period. And anyone that's like tried to be part of navigating, setting up a tabletop thing like that over any more than like one or two
Got him.
um whatever like so congratulations that that actually happened and you're able to do that because that's fantastic for you that you get to like experience that for more than just one night or 1 or 2 days, right?
It's a lot easier when it's online for one thing, like, people don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to, like, pick up the snacks, or whatever. But also it's like, the people that I play with, are really, like, hard pressed about being like, no, we are going to play every week, and that not having it be kind of loosey goosey is really um it's sort of the heart of it. You gotta be serious about it. I had a local group going for a little while, but then the GM lost his job, and it's just like, ugh, now we got that fell apart, and it's just everything. There's always something. It's so rough.
Yes, and like, yeah, I'm happy to hear that, you're part of a group that is, like you said,
Yeah,
they're like, we're doing this, it's scheduled, everyone meet
100%.
up. This is our evenings or whatever, right? And like no one gets really high and then wanders off for an hour to walk the dog without saying goodbye,
Yeah.
right?
That is
Um,
true. That does not happen.
definitely has happened to me, and we had to phone them, be like, hey, what's going on? They're like, I'm walking the dog. It's like, okay, um, a heads up would have been nice. Like, you just left mid-session. Yeah, the dog needed to be walked. Okay. Um,
Oh
good
man,
to know, good to
amazing.
know. Yes, amazing is a word that could be used. But anyway, thank you, for sharing that. I'm happy to hear that you have that group. But, I keep beating that horse, but anyway.
I
Um,
too am happy. Thank you.
I am wondering though, because it sounds like you've been exposed to a few different, uh engines, systems, or what have you. I'm wondering if
Oh
there's
sure.
like if you had like a favorite one that you would like to shout out, because I'm mostly only familiar with like D&D or a few
Yeah.
others.
Yeah, let's see. It's a good question. There's so I've spent my most of my time playing D&D, which is like not necessarily something that I did on purpose. It is just kind of like the system that I know best, and that therefore, it's hard to pull the group away from one system in favor of another. It seems like, yeah, I mean, Blades in the Dark seems really satisfying. I have a soft spot for Trophy Dark games, which are very short, like one shot games that basically you only have like a few players, maybe like four or something like that. And the deal is just that everyone or almost everyone is going to be dead at the end of the game. So you just have to kind of like you have to try to do your quest, but then there comes a point where you're like, well, I basically just get to pick how I go out. You know what I mean? And it's a very cool one shot like paradigm. Good stuff. I've run a couple of those that involve bees and stuff, and that is it's just a joy. It's cool to have a focused, one shot kind of situation. Bluebeard's Bride also very cool. But like, more experimental. We're not talking about D&D here. Um when it comes to yeah, Masks seems really cool. It's sort of a uh teen, I think it's like basically like a teen superhero kind of system, and one of the cool mechanical conceits is that you because teens are teens, they can influence one another and be influenced by, adults and stuff like that. And that is mechanically conveyed by literally like changing your stats. So like, if you're a teen who's a superhero and you can have a talk with your mom, and your mom can move your danger stat down, you know what I mean? And it's very because she's like influencing you to behave the way she wants. And it's just such a cool it's such a satisfying concept. Like what a fun idea. There's all kinds of like great, like, more focused, like experimental things out there that I cannot currently think of, but I should be able to. I wish I had you know, I wish I had a group I could just like try all this stuff out with. That would be great. Everyone should at me on Blue Sky if you want to try all this stuff out. I am Zusty, Zusty. Let me know. Um, yeah.
So, thank you for answering that, speaking to the systems, because as someone that was dumb enough to think that maybe the thing that could help herding the cats was creating their own system. I
Mm.
always like
Oh
hearing
god.
about
That's a job.
yes, yes. So my hesitation is thinking of how to you know what's even more of a job? Going,
Hmm.
I can make interactive PDFs to make this work easier because you're trying to make the cats hurtable. But anyway,
Oh
as
my
someone
gosh.
that has foolishly tried to make a system, um, I like hearing about other systems just because it's always neat to hear more about the standard, D&D, the standard, the
Hell
one that
yeah.
everyone else knows about. So thank you for speaking to that,
Hell
for
yeah.
for answering that.
No
I
problem. Oh,
also
I've
wish
also
you
oh, sorry.
I was gonna say I wish you the best of luck in finding people to like experiment in those systems with, but you
Thank
were
you.
about to say,
Oh,
sorry.
I was just gonna say, I also have spent some time in person playing. My local group was playing Hunter, which is in the Vampire the Masquerade universe. It's in that sort of umbrella, where you're humans trying to find vampires and werewolves and stuff like that, and that's a good time. All right, that has um, a lot of really fun stuff, and like intersecting with vampires and werewolves is like extremely terrifying because they're way more powerful than the humans, so you mostly just have to run away or get killed. And I think people do in fact get killed a lot. Oh, I've also recently learned about Wild Sea, which is I think based on it's loosely based on Blades in the Dark, but it takes place you are in the far future when like the whole planet is just trees, like basically nature has won. And you are sailing a kind of boat on top of the trees. And it's very like, you know, uh man, I don't know. It's all the creatures are very like moth people and stuff like that that could be like light and don't have to walk around on the forest floor and that kind of thing. It's pretty cool. It seems pretty neat. I listened to a couple of podcasts about it.
That is an absolutely wild premise. You know, I'm,
Deeply.
like I've always liked the idea of like boats on sand, like that whole
Oh
setup.
yeah.
And
Sure.
now I like the idea of boats on trees because that's
Yeah.
equally wild, but also it's like the other side of that coin, right? Like the world's either arid and dead or it's full of life, but it's still boats, right? Like you're still sailing into
Yeah.
the unknown. So thank you. That's a really awesome thing to know that it exists. So thank you for
No
that.
problem. There's a delightful podcast on I think it's My First Dungeon that does a Wild Sea like 6 session um little campaign, and it's very charming to listen to, and it sort of explicates most of or a certain amount of what's possible in there. Of course it's a lot broader than one game.
Awesome. So thank you. I wrote that down because I'm gonna try and
Yeah,
remember to take a look at that because like yeah, that's just a wild setup that it's just really cool to know about. So thank you
it's
for
really
that.
fun. It's a really fun idea. Yeah.
Now, Carla, I don't want to steal too much more of your time. So
Okay.
before I let you go, not that I'm not having fun, not that this isn't enjoyable. It's just I want to be cognizant of it's your Friday evening, right? So um, before I let you go, I do want to. Wow, sorry, I just threw myself off with what I was trying to say there. I don't.
That's okay.
My head mixed some scripts up there. But as I was saying, I want to let you go. I want to let you get on with your evening. However, if there is anything else you want to discuss, a cool game, what you're doing, something you feel more people should just be more aware of, by all means, the floor is yours. You also already mentioned your blue sky. However, I'm going to say as
Did.
well, by all means, um, tell everyone else where they can find you as well. I'll put that in the episode description. Your blue sky will be there, but if you wanna say it again, by all means, or wherever else. Anyway, the floor is all yours.
Okay. Let's see. Uh Oh, well, let's see. There's one other tabletop thing I should shout out, which is the Teeth collection, which is a very weird and gross sort of Blades system takeoff. That there's several different modules in it. One is called Night of the Hogmen, if that gives you any idea of how these things go. But we've played some local friends and I have played a bunch of these and we had a great time with it, so check out those teeth. Um, let's see. What is good? I don't know. Play the games. I'm ZUSTY on Blue Sky, and I used to be on Twitter, but I locked my account recently because Twitter's now bad. I should probably just delete it, but I haven't done it yet. Um, let's see. I work at Sonderlust Games full time now. That's the thing I'm doing. What do people talk about in these situations?
You know, usually, I'm not gonna lie, usually they just plug things they want you to know about, or plug things they want to plug, and that's pretty much it. You know, sometimes I've had people be like, "Oh, I want to talk about this question or something else."
Oh
But
yeah.
most of the time it's just, this is where you can find me.
Yeah. Do I have anything else I really want to talk about? I don't know. Um, yeah. I don't think I don't need to do. Oh, I guess I can also mention one of my favorite deeply weird games is called Horse Master. It's a browser game, so it's free. Tom McHenry, good game. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything. I'm just gonna like tell you weird games that people I know made, and that's gonna be that's gonna be it.
Fair enough. Um, so yeah, so outside of that, then, if there was nothing else, I will let you get on with your evening. I will free you from the confines of this podcast.
I accept this. I will bust out like the Kool-Aid man.
Awesome, awesome.
I won't do that. It's okay.
So
Don't
thanks
worry.
again. By all means, do not have to worry. I will trust the doors of this Discord server will hold up to you running into them, unlike that CEO or what have you that blasted through a window in a high scraper as a joke and ended up, not making it through. Okay.
Wow. Is this just like, wait, what?
Um, so real quick, fun fact, there was a like high exec at some company, and for years and years at like Christmas parties or whatever, he had a joke where he would throw himself at the window of the high scraper or skyscraper,
Okay, okay.
like
Skyscraper's
80
pretty good
stories
though.
up. And
Yeah.
he'd bounce off the window, but he would like, put on this joke show, bounce off it, and people would have like a laugh, right? And he did it so much to like new people that showed up or what have you, that everyone that was there was just used to it. And
Yeah.
then one day he did it to the window, and that window, I guess, was just like, "Hey, man, you've done this too much. I'm
Oh
out." And
my
it
god.
broke, and he flew through it, fell 80 stories,
Ow.
and everyone there basically had a moment of, "Oh God, it finally happened."
Wow, he Dick
Because
Jonesed himself
uh,
from
I don't know who
RoboCop.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So exactly. So like, yeah, uh, sorry, a weird connection to the joke earlier about always, getting kicked out of skyscrapers. But yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
If you hadn't heard about that, that's a thing that happened. I don't know if they've
Wow.
ever. I don't know if that led to anything happening outside of people being like, "Do not jokingly throw yourself at these windows. They're not rated for it." But
Damn. That's a whole
yeah,
thing. All
yeah,
right.
horrible, horrible, horrible way to go in that scenario, because it's like, yeah, funny joke, and then you have enough time to, fall to your death and realize that joke was not worth this.
Man, that is classic hubris, I gotta say.
Yes, yes, that is classic hubris. Like, yep.
That's amazing.
Um,
Well, all right.
yeah. Anyway, Carla, as I was saying, I will let you go.
Okay.
So thanks again for making time to have this conversation with me, Carla, and thank you for joining us on the Red Tunic podcast, as well as a special thanks to Roland Jenkins for the use of music from the title track from Roads Deep. Be sure to check out the episode description for links to socials, websites, and other means that allow you to learn more about or support Carla and the podcast. While you're doing that, share, like, follow, and whatever else you think makes the algorithm work. Thanks. Till next time.